you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now. Got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now. Got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to LaFleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. Bittt. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, it's Tuesday, May 21st. It's not often during these NHL playoffs that we have gone live, because I have told you on numerous occasions that with games happening at night, very, very hard to find someone who's going to go live, because pretty much anyone who is anyone is watching the NHL playoffs. They're going to want to watch instead of coming on a podcast. Some of them are working, whether it's radio, television, podcasting, or all of the above, or whatever it is, or even print, that is. So it's hard. However, tonight was a perfect opportunity, because tonight there is no game in the National Hockey League in the playoffs. And of course, we are now down to 4. The season started with 32. The playoffs started to 16. And now there are 4. Who will win the Stanley Cup? Every team that's remaining has a 25% chance to win it. That's for sure, statistically speaking. But then again, all depending on who you ask, a lot of people are going to favor one team more than another. It's going to be Dallas versus Edmonton. That series will get underway starting on Thursday night in Dallas. And it's going to be the Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers. And that series is going to get started tomorrow night. Is going to be game 1, which is going to take place in New York at Madison Square Garden. I'm very much looking forward to this. I have to tell you something. I think that the 4 teams, you can make a serious case. And I mean, I guess you could say that when there's 4 teams remaining, that they're the best teams in the National Hockey League. But I really do believe that Florida and the New York Rangers were the 2 best teams in the East going into the playoffs. And in the West, it was a little bit tougher, because I think you could have made a serious case, of course, for Dallas, Colorado, maybe even Winnipeg, maybe even Vancouver, Edmonton, and the Vegas Golden Knights. But I don't have a problem with Edmonton. I love the way they finished the series. Game 6 and Game 7 convinced me that they're closer now than they have been in quite some time. This is the team that has the most ingredients, I think, since Connor McDavid's been an Edmonton Oiler. In the end, I think he's going to fall a little bit short, because I think Dallas is just way too strong for Edmonton. But the beauty of the playoffs is things happen. One key injury to one team, and then all of a sudden, everything changes. One bad penalty, one big power play, one breakout performance, one goalie getting hot. Anyway, you know the drill. It is the Sick Podcast, and it's brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, once again recognized as one of Canada's top fleet employers for the 4th consecutive year. The prestigious accolade underscores their steadfast dedication to fostering a workplace of excellence and opportunity, much in part to their exceptional team for their unwavering commitment and contribution. Energy Transportation Group, top fleet employer. Also brought to you in part by Bittt at Tibi. Bittt Tibi, brewed in Quebec, a winner of a dozen international awards. Bittt Tibi offers quality microbrewery beers made with premium ingredients for everyone's taste. Bittt Tibi, embrace your true nature. I'm going to give a shout out and talk to you about Playground as well as sportbuffshop.com a little bit later on in the podcast. Without further ado, he's usually a regular collaborator on Mondays, but we were off for holiday Monday yesterday. We're back tonight, of course, on Tuesday. I bring him in from Sportsnet at sportsnet.ca. Eric Engels, what's going on?
You look refreshed.
I am. And when I'm not, I have this handy all the time. It's my spray bottle, and here we go. Amazing. What's going on with you?
I would say it's past my bedtime if I wasn't watching all this playoff hockey.
Wow. You had a great idea today, and you said, you know what, Tony? A lot of people end up sending over questions via Twitter, via Instagram, via Facebook. Why don't we take some of them? And I said, yeah, you know what? Let's do that. That's a great idea. So we're going to get to those in just a couple of minutes' time. And also, if you're on the YouTube right now and you have a couple of questions, Agnello and Sammy are at Master Control, and they'll bring them up. But before we get to all your Habs-related questions, a couple of questions for you right off the bat. Number one, are you working the semis?
Not working the semis, watching the semis, preparing some Habs content, obviously, as we prepare for the draft.
Yeah.
But I'll be very engaged with it, that's for sure.
Who do you think is going to win the semis, and who do you want to see win the semis?
Well, I had Dallas and Florida making the Stanley Cup final from the beginnings, and nothing's changed my mind about that. But I will say they're both going to get a pretty good series out of the teams that are there. I was watching Vancouver, Edmonton, and just thinking to myself, those last 6 minutes where Vancouver finally showed up to play Game 7, you know, that forechecking style, like Edmonton's about to see 4 out of 7 games of that. Like,
yeah,
didn't handle it particularly well. They got scored on twice in 6 minutes, and it was close to getting tied if that shot from JT Miller doesn't hit Zadorov in the front. Could be a tie game.
I don't necessarily think that Vancouver woke up in the last 6 or 7 minutes. Look, mind you, they had one terrible power play that lasted 4 minutes long where I think they only got a shot. There's no doubt that they're better than what they showed in the first 2 periods. But I think what we saw last night, we've seen a lot. Maybe not to the point where Edmonton dominated as much as they did in a Game 7 semifinal, because that was way too dominant. And I think Vancouver had a lot more to give for sure. But once the Oilers grabbed the 3-0 lead, they took the pedal off of the metal, and then Vancouver got back into the game. So was it that Vancouver woke up in the last 6 or 7 minutes, or was it that Edmonton stopped attacking? I think they had 2 or 3 shots on goal in period number 3, and that was it, or they had 2 for most of the period. And that's the reason why Vancouver looked better in the last 6 or 7 minutes, or maybe a combination of both.
Well, it's a combination of it, but the reality is that the score forced Vancouver to get aggressive, and their game plan was one that was very passive. And it was one that worked out well for them throughout the season and throughout the playoffs, where you wait for your opponent to make mistakes. You don't, push things too much into the middle, and you strike. And one of the things that Vancouver did extremely well was strike when they had their opportunities. They were extremely opportunistic in the regular season with very good high shooting percentage, which speaks to the talent that's on their roster as much as it does maybe a little bit of puck luck. But they played that style and they committed to it, and they never panicked, even when they were down 3-0. But when they were down 3-0 and it got down to crunch time with 6 minutes left, they had to get much more aggressive. And I think what this should prove to them is that may have worked for this iteration of the Vancouver Canucks in terms of what they had in terms of personnel. They have a lot of talent, but they have some depth issues. And, they were a team that was very leaky in terms of chances before Tocchet took over. So he did a great job cleaning all that up.
He did.
You can't take anything away from Shelov's. Like, that was unbelievable the way he stepped in. But a big part of it is how he's protected within the system that they have. I know they get outshot handily, but their system is an old school counter attacking style where they stretch the ice out and get pucks in deep and don't force things to the middle and try to frustrate their opponent into doing the exact opposite. That didn't work. And it will not work for any team that tries to play that way through an entire Stanley Cup playoff run. Like,
I wonder if I wonder if the Vancouver Canucks would have the courage to trade a guy like Thatcher Demko and go with Shelov's going forward.
Yeah.
If they saw enough of Shelov's, or if there's that fear that he could be a guy who got hot come playoff time, but just can't replicate the performances that he gave in the last month or so, because he wouldn't be the first one to get hot in the playoffs and then dissipate over the next couple of years. There have been others, but it would be a very courageous decision that can either backfire or pay dividends. But it could be something to think of, because clearly they have to shore up other areas of their team, and they need to add a little bit of depth, and I think they need to add a little bit of sandpaper. Anyway, I'm going to tell you this. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. I'm cheering for Connor McDavid to win the Stanley Cup, okay? I've heard a lot of stuff about Connor McDavid over the last couple of years. I mean, I think he's the best player in the world. You can have that debate with McKinnon for sure. There's no doubt about it. I think Connor McDavid is the best player in the world. I did call him out after his Game 5 performance, which I thought he was awful. I do praise him after his Game 6 performance, in which I thought he was amazing. There's been other amazing performances. Of course, things are tighter in the playoffs, and he's not dominating as much as he did in the regular season. Mind you, you could take a look at the leaders in points in the playoffs. You're going to find Connor McDavid right at the top. But I'm a big fan of the best players winning the Stanley Cup. I mean, I hate it when the best players or great players do not win the Stanley Cup. It breaks my heart. Marcel Dion being one of them, Gilbert Perreault being another. The list goes on and on. And so, if Ray Bourque didn't ask for a trade, he doesn't win a Stanley Cup. That would have been a shame. I was so happy when Lanny McDonald won the Stanley Cup, even though as a teenager I was crying because the Canadians lost on Forum Ice versus Lanny McDonald and the Calgary Flames back in 1989. But, I'm cheering for McDavid to win the Cup. I really want him to win the Cup. There's so much pressure on him. And if he's not going to win it, unfortunately, you're going to have a bunch of people, or I don't know how many people, but you will have people say, you know what, this guy can't win in the playoffs. And even though everyone knows deep down inside that Dallas is deeper than Edmonton and should beat Edmonton, a lot of people are still going to take that opportunity to tell you that Connor McDavid could not win in the playoffs if the Oilers lose.
Yeah, but all that is all that is stupid. Number one. Number two, he's 27 years old, so he'll have other opportunities to win considering how great he is. Number three, he's got 96 playoff points in, I don't know, what is it? Let me just take a look here. 61 games. He has performed, and so has Draisaitl. And ultimately, in a cap era where the biggest thing going against them was a pandemic that froze things and not enabling them to, over the last number of years, they got the experience, right, that they needed. They do have a deeper group than they ever have and a more experienced group than they ever have right now. But you'd still, if you had the opportunity and the cap and going up at a regular rate, they'd be able to give Dallas a much better run for their money. And maybe they'll end up beating them. I don't know. We could both be wrong about it. I think Dallas's forecheck is going to be too much to handle for that defense. And their goaltending in Game 6 and Game 7 of that series against Vancouver didn't get any test at a time where it really needed to get tested. And I don't want to take anything away from the Canucks. They played their hearts out. They deserve all the love that they got from their fans. But the Canucks were a goal away from pushing them to overtime in Game 7, despite playing a pretty lousy game. Yeah. And I'm not going to stand down from that. I didn't think they played a good game at all. No. They just made it way too easy all over the ice, and that's part of that was tactical, and part of it was just they just couldn't find a way to win battles.
Yeah, but style makes fights, though, as we know in the playoffs, right? Like you might say, hey, Vancouver without Thatcher Demko and without Brock Besser and playing a terrible game for 52 minutes only came within one goal of tying the Edmonton Oilers and bringing the game to overtime, and all that is true. But Edmonton stylistically might end up matching up better against Dallas. Do I think that's going to be the case? So. No, I do not. No, that's not what I'm saying. What's
a beautiful advantage for Dallas, Tony?
Yeah.
They don't need to create a different game plan based on the series they just came out of when it came to Colorado. They don't need to change their game plan at all. And they already played a team that shuts it down exceptionally well in the middle of the ice in Vegas. Like the road that they've taken to here is significant. The only hope to me, not the only hope, but one of the major hopes for Edmonton would be that those two teams took enough out of Dallas that they could get them. Yeah. But this rest that Dallas got is a huge benefit, no matter what happens in Game 1.
Tanev has been a fantastic addition, by the way. Here we are in Montreal. We were saying, what's the offer going to be for David Savard? And when Tanev was moved, we said, well, Tanev, why Tanev? If they had taken Savard, will Savard go next? But I'm going to tell you this. Tanev has been absolutely fantastic for Dallas. He did quite a number on Nathan McKinnon.
I thought that deal was not good enough when it was made. I thought it screwed up the defense market, and it did. It's a big part of the reason why David Savard didn't get moved before the deadline, even though he had a year left on his deal. I'm telling you right now, that deal, and Calgary can, be super excited about the prospect they got, who's a purely defensive guy. Yeah. And that's okay because Tanev is that style of player, and there's a younger player coming in. But I'm telling you, the Dallas Stars had that guy circled on their list. they absolutely wanted him above. There was nobody who was in second place that was even close.
Tailor-made for them in their system. Tailor-made for them. So I'm cheering for McDavid first, and if he doesn't win it, I'm cheering for the Florida Panthers, who are the only team out of the four left that have never won a Stanley Cup in their history, number one. Number two, they got to the final last year, and they went through the pain of losing. And number three, I'm cheering for my buddy Roberto Luongo, who went through that pain last year as an executive and also went through that pain as a player when he was the goalie for the Vancouver Canucks back in 2011 when his team lost in the Stanley Cup final to the Boston Bruins. So for me, McDavid, if not McDavid, the Florida Panthers.
I think I have no dog in the fight. Honestly, I don't care one way or the other. Like I said, I predicted it would be Dallas and Florida. I'm still standing by that, but I will say this. We did just talked a bunch about Edmonton and Dallas and what I think is an advantage in the forecheck, the depth, and just the way Dallas plays and how battle-tested they are already. The New York Rangers are going to give Florida everything they can handle. I mean, that team is deep from top to bottom, great scoring, penalty killing power play, goaltender is phenomenal. That is going to be
their top five on defense.
And they're deep. They're faster. They're faster than who Florida has played already in these playoffs. And I think it's going to shape up as like, I'm wondering if Florida can drag them through the muck. Like, are they going to get them into that dirty, mucky style of play? And will New York stand up to that? And my answer ultimately, and still thinking that Florida will prevail in this series, is predicated on, I think they will be successful in that game plan, but also they've got a Russian goaltender themselves who's played fantastic in these playoffs, and Bobrovsky. And you think about the questions about him in the past that he's answered them. Like, yeah. I think it's going to be such a great series. I'm so excited to watch it.
So if Florida plays the intimidation game, let's just say if Matthew Tkachuk is at his absolutely very best, and by the way, he's not the only one, because Bennett is very, very physically dominant as well. And they have others. They have a big team, Florida up front. They have a heavy team. But who knows if Matt Rempe will try and negate all of that. And then again, if he does, and Rempe averages, I think he's played 7 out of 9 games so far, and I think he averages about 6.5 minutes. Will he be a liability on the ice for the New York Rangers if that happens? Anyway, we've talked about the playoffs. I think we've given everyone more than our share of opinions. And now it's my opportunity, before we jump to the Montreal Canadiens, to talk to you about Playground. Step into the excitement of Playground with the mystery high hand promotion every day starting at 10 a.m. You have a chance to win a share of over $120,000 in cash prizes available until May 31st, whether you play from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily or join the late night action from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. from Sunday to Thursday. You could win up to $25,000. For more details, visit playground.ca. Don't miss out. Swing by Playground and get in on the winning. Also, a shout out to sportbuffshop.com. Shop all your sports license apparel, including hoodies, caps, and t-shirts of your favorite teams from all major leagues at sportbuffshop.com. Use code SICK10 for 10% off of all of their items. So Sammy tells me that we have about 25 questions to get to. Man, I don't know if we're going to be able to get to them all, but why don't we do this?
We'll go lightning round.
Let's go lightning round. Let's commit to get to all 25. Or 26 that he's telling me about here. I don't know if we'll be able to take others. Let's see how it goes, okay? So without further ado, bring up those questions. All right, here's your Habs questions. It's Ask Us Anything. I'd love to know the name of people asking it, but...
It's the real Xander, bro.
This is the real Xander. Question, with the draft coming up and possibly some trades as well, who is the best dance partner for Hughes for a deal, and what would be the potential assets? You want to tackle that one?
Yeah, but I'm going to do it in general terms because, unfortunately, we don't know who's really going to be available. Like, correct. You could talk about Trevor Zegras out of Anaheim, or you could talk about Martin Necas out of Carolina, and who knows where the commitments are from those teams to those players. One thing we know is that the potential targets should probably be some impact style forwards who have some significant talent. It's very hard to pin down because I'll tell you, I didn't think that Kirby Dach was going to be available 2 years ago, and all of a sudden he was a Montreal Canadian. So I understand this is a question that everybody has on their mind right now in Montreal, but even Kent Hughes, with all the conversations he'll have over the coming weeks with teams, is not fully aware of he might become aware suddenly of a player that he never would have thought would have been available. And that's why when he was at his end of season press conference talking about how, I can't really say what we'll do because I don't know what'll be available to me. That's really what it comes down to. So if he can't say for sure, and it's not just because he doesn't want to say, it's hard for me to say. But I think as far as potential targets are concerned, I think we know that trading for forwards, there's going to be some opportunities out there with some teams that are going to make some changes.
I'll say this. I mean, everyone knows that they need a couple of wingers for their second line in an ideal situation. But I think the Canadiens need to add some size, some toughness, some grit, and some character to their lineup. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the 4 teams that are remaining in the playoffs, they're all pretty big. There's not too many small players on these 4 teams left. There's some big players, top heavy, even third and fourth lines. There's some big players. They lean on you.
You got to play big, right? You got to play big, right? Like Wyatt Johnson has been Dallas's best player, and he's not big, and he plays big. I'll say this on the size thing, and you are 100% right, Tony, and this is definitely a quotient that the Canadiens are looking at. It's not even a secret at this point. Obviously, they're going to be looking. They're watching the playoffs like everybody else. But I'm going to say this, and I think a lot of people have discounted this stuff. They go get talent up front, two bona fide top 6 forwards style wingers, whatever it is. That pushes certain guys that, how often did we see Josh Anderson in their top 6 this year? Was it 90% of the games, despite the fact that he wasn't scoring? Like, if you're able to push that guy and Gallagher and Armia, who was mostly in the middle 6 and bottom, like if those guys become your bottom 6, you're paying a lot for players in your bottom 6.
Of course.
But they're here. They're here already, right? So, like, it's not like they can't play that style, and it's not like they can't be more effective if you have more talent coming in and playing above them in the lineup. So I just think that's something that's kind of being discounted as everybody looks at adding those extra type of pieces. They're not going to go out and sign those style of players with those guys still on their roster. Something would have to change at that bottom end.
We're going to have to go faster if we want to do this rapid fire. So, let's go. I'll try and tackle the next one. I don't even know what it's going to be. With the UFA pool in 2025 looking incredibly deep and more contracts off the books by then, assuming Savard, Armia, Evans, is there a home run UFA in 2025 that Kent Hughes should target? Okay. 2025 UFAs, there's John Tavares, right? There's Mitch Marner. I think the best one is Rantanen not a UFA in 2025?
I'd have to look.
I think Rantanen and Draisaitl are UFAs in 2025. I think Rantanen and Draisaitl are UFAs in 2025. And I would think that that Rantanen, out of all UFAs, would be number 1. But then again, there's players like Rantanen's going to cost you a lot of money, right? There's other players who are going to cost you a lot less money who could be pretty effective players as well. Like I'm thinking of Brock Besser is somebody that can help this team, but he's obviously not going to bring what Rantanen brings. But Rantanen's going to cost you a lot more than Brock Besser is going to cost you, right? But I would think that of all the players available, that Mikko Rantanen would be the one that the Montreal Canadiens could use the most. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Slavkovsky as one winger on one line and having Rantanen as a winger on another.
Well, so long as Nathan McKinnon is in Colorado, I have a hard time believing that they'll like. It's a dangerous.
I'm just answering the question.
Yeah. I love the answer. But I'll give you a name, and I'll give you a name that would be probably, if not my number 1 target, number 2 or 3 on the list, Sam Bennett. That would be the top guy that I'd be after. If that guy became available, he'd be the number 1 guy I would want to add to my team.
That's obviously a very, very good pick. There's no doubt about it. I mean, Sam Bennett would be a very, very good pick. I'm just thinking. Bennett would be very good. Yeah.
I know it's I know it's enticing to like spend max dollars on a free agent and this and that, but like those deals just don't. Where does it lead teams? Like it's the best guys who are.
Verhaeghe would be good too.
Oh, Verhaeghe's unbelievable. What an unbelievable player that guy is. So, like, I'm just saying, but like the best guys are generally
Saros.
They generally don't make it to market, and then the other guys make it that are high end, but they've made it because the team that they're with, it no longer makes sense for them to pay top dollar for them, and then you start looking at which teams it would make sense for, and the pool becomes much more limited than you would think for a player who's really good. But you get a guy like Sam Bennett in that wheelhouse where you're going to pay him a lot as an unrestricted free agent, but he would be a really interesting guy. I'm trying to think if he's even a UFA at that point.
Sam Bennett would be UFA, yeah. Sam Bennett's UFA, yeah.
Just didn't want to misspeak. So yeah, that would be an interesting name for me.
You know who else is going to be UFA at the end of the 25 season? Shesterkin.
Yeah. Well, I think New York. I think New York will lock him up well before we get to that.
Saros, UFA as well. Not too shabby. All right, let's go to the next question. Next one's for you, Eric. Can you go through the current roster, including RFAs, UFAs, and rate if they'll be back with the Habs next season? Will current RFAs be qualified, and will they be playing with the Habs or the Rocket?
Oh boy, go through the entire roster. That's not what.
No, don't go through the entire roster. But why don't we do this? UFAs next year. Well, players at the end of their contracts: Dvorak, Savard, Armia.
Well, I'll make it very simple because I'm looking at the list right now. Jesse Alonen, I would have a hard time believing that he's going to be qualified. Maybe they'll keep him, but if they end up signing a kid like Kapanen and bring them over here, I think that takes away a spot from
Ulanen blew his chance.
Yeah, so he might not be qualified. Tanner Pearson gone, Colin White gone. Arbor Jacki obviously is going to get signed.
Yeah.
I don't buy much into trade rumors unless something crazy is on its way back to Montreal. After that, there's Chris Weidman, who's done playing hockey. So that pretty much covers the list as far as the Canadians are concerned. You've got Justin Barron up for a deal, and I'm sure he'll get one if he's not traded in the offseason. We'll see if he's back. I mean, it's their depth on the – you and I covered this last time we spoke. Their depth on the right side is not so significant that they should just walk away from what will be a reasonably cheap contract, second contract for Justin Barron. So we'll see.
Next one. I'll tackle this one, unless I can't. Who are, in your opinion, the three Habs most likely to be traded between now and the season opener? Ooh, between now and the season opener. Between now and the season opener. I'm going to go with, it's a tough question because I don't know if there's going to be three that are going to be traded between now and the season opener. I'm going to say that between now and next year's trade deadline, I'd be willing to bet that Christian Dvorak and Yoel Armia will be traded. Just my opinion. There's going to be one defenseman, maybe two, that'll be traded between now and the season opener. And I don't think the defenseman is going to be Mike Matheson. I don't think it's going to be Lane Hudson. I don't think it's going to be Caden Gooley. And I might surprise you here. I don't think it's going to be Struble either. I know a lot of people were expecting me to say Jacki. I don't think it'll be Jacki either, by the way. So, but at the same time, the other defensemen that I didn't mention who are susceptible, in my opinion, to being traded, it's not like they're at a point in their career where it carries a lot of value either. So I wish I could have given you a better answer, but that's what I got for now. Next one. Eric, this one's for you. Is there a chance the Habs sign Jonathan Marchessault?
How do I answer this? I don't think it's impossible. And that's going to depend on Jonathan Marchessault. Last I heard, he and Vegas are trying to work something out. And if both parties are interested in doing that, there's a chance it'll happen. But I don't know if the Habs aren't going to give max term and max dollars to Jonathan Marchessault.
At 34 years old, no.
Yeah.
Coming off a 40-goal season, amazing. Conn Smythe 1 year ago, amazing. But I'll say this, Eric.
Would it be a bad deal if the Canadians gave Jonathan Marchessault 3 or 4 years on a contract?
It's not a bad deal. and I don't want to say that a 40-goal scorer and a former Conn Smythe Trophy winner is not the most ideal pick for this team, but I don't think he is. Yes, he's a Quebecer, and if he'd love to come back, they should welcome him with open arms. I get that. A 3 or 4 year contract for a team that is ready to take the next step of the rebuild, but not quite a contender yet. I don't know. But another small look, he's he's incredibly talented.
He plays big. Plays big.
Yeah, I understand, but
He
you know,
plays
like
big,
I'm tired of hearing though the whole plays big. Like, okay, Suzuki's 5'11", but he's stocky, he's over
But
200.
he plays big.
He plays big. Okay,
It doesn't
Newhook.
matter.
Okay, Gallagher. Okay, Raphael, Harvey Pinard. Like, okay, like at one point, there's a lot of small players here, man. Like,
Yeah, you need size for sure. But
I mean, do you know of any of the 4 teams that are left? Do any of them have 5 players anywhere between? Or 6 players anywhere between 5'7" and 5'11"?
No, but we get stuck on height. Like, how tall is Elias Pettersson? Is he 6'2"?
I understand that.
He doesn't play big.
No, but let's not take a look at the teams that got it. Let's take a look at the teams that are left and the team that won the cup last year.
Okay.
And yes, Jonathan Marchessault was the smallest player on Vegas, and he was their best player. I give you that 1,000%. What I'm talking about is the composition of a team and how many of those guys you can have.
Well, let's look at Dallas. You got Wyatt Johnson. You have Logan Stankoven. You have Maverick Bourque, who's not playing right now, but has played. You've got Tyler Seguin, who is a guy who's built basically exactly like Suzuki. Like, they're not massive. They play big. And so it's one or the other. But agreed, you still need size. They have Rupins. They have Jamie Benn. They have Marchment. They have, like, Heiskanen isn't huge. He plays huge. Like, that's the thing, okay? So, again, I'm not about building teams full of Smurfs, but when I look at Jonathan Marchessault, I don't blush about his size. Like, that guy plays like an animal. Like, he's
and I'm sure that he would.
I'm gonna again say I don't think it's likely the Canadians are going to sign him. I don't think it's impossible either.
I hear you. Next, I'll take the next one. Matthew Simmons says, "Who do you like the most between Holtz, Nishkash, Zegras, and Rosie, and which one should we target and at what price?"
Who's Rosie?
I'm trying to figure that one out myself. Yeah, we should have Rosie. Who's Rosie?
All right, we'll start with the first 3.
Okay, I like Alexander Holtz a lot.
You do?
Yeah, I do. Now listen
He's
to this.
third on my list for these 3,
and he is, but I think it's the most doable. Without giving up, sacrificing the most. But then again, maybe it's not because, but here's a guy who I think is a former 9th pick overall. He did extremely well in Utica and underachieved a little bit with Jersey. But, I like Holtz. I think that the price could be Marco Rossi is Rosie. Okay. No.
Okay.
No. Look, I think Trevor Zegras is the best talent out of the 3. I think that Alexander Holtz could be, it could be a really good goal scorer. And I think that Nikash could be a pretty good consolation prize. I'm not going to put Rossi on top. What do you have? Curious.
Nikash would probably be number 1 for me, but same kind of issue as what you see with Zegras, which is like, can you get them to play the team game, play the style of game that wins in the playoffs?
Yeah.
It is a question mark for both guys.
He had a good season, 53 points in 77 games, and he had 9 points in 11 playoff games.
He's a good player.
And I think he's like 24 or 25 years old. I mean, he's a good player.
He's a good player, and Zegras is a good player also. And they're both young enough where they're not done developing, and they're not at a point where you could say, this is who this guy is, and that's it. And, like, maybe the teams that they're with feel that way about them, but for some guys, it just takes a wake up call and a different opportunity. And, like, I don't want to keep coming back to it, but a lot of the things that people have said about Zegras specifically were said about Kirby Dach before he landed in Montreal. And, Kirby's still got to prove himself here.
I like Svechnikov in Carolina. Never mind Nikash. I like Svechnikov.
Yeah, well, who doesn't?
Yeah, but then again, who doesn't? You're right about that. And Seth Jarvis, he's a beauty. Yeah, he's a real.
Yeah, he's not. He's not.
No. He's a fantastic player. They have several good players, but Nikash he's got good size too.
I like Nikash. I think Zegras has the highest ceiling of those three players, and he might be the one that I kind of look at him, and you've already heard my comments. I kind of got blown up about the talent that he has and this and that. Like his talent, his individual talent is enormous. I still think he has the ability to not only be a complementary piece who gets things done himself, but make players around him better with that talent. He needs to be in the right environment for it to happen. I don't know if that's Anaheim, but I do like this, Tony. I like that if he were to come here, it would be Marty St. Louis and Kent Hughes and people who know him well and Adam Nicholas. And not only that, but he would also look at Slavkovsky and Caulfield and Suzuki and the process that those three have submitted to at a very young age to become more complete players. And he'd have a choice. You buy in, or you become a guy who never sheds those labels that are on him right now. And I think Kirby was staring at a very similar kind of situation before coming here in Montreal. And I think it's going to work out well with him if he can stay healthy, which I know people think is a big if. I'm not that concerned about it. I thought he was going to be the best player on Montreal this year, coming into the season before he got hurt. And I still think he's going to come back after watching what those guys did, especially that top line, the way it formed together, and he's going to be super motivated. So again, like I don't think it's impossible that Zegras could be a guy like that, but there is risk. There is risk in it.
He's got the most start potential out of all of them. Okay, we're gonna have to make the answers faster or quicker. Let's go. Will Mailloux and Hudson play in Montreal next year? Eric?
Yeah. Will they play 82 games? Who knows? But they will definitely play games in Montreal next year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Hudson will start. Mailloux, not so sure, but if he doesn't, it won't take long. Next.
We'll see.
Daniel, Peter, John Klipperchuk. If that's his name, fantastic. Assistant coaching changes coming this offseason? Yes or no?
No. Would have to take some sort of breakdown in contract negotiations for that to happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, based on what I've heard, they've all been offered contracts. That's what I've heard. I don't know what's happening in Laval, by the way, with JF Houle, but maybe that's something to start digging around on. Next, if the 4 picks ahead of the Habs select a forward, who do you think the Habs will pick, a forward or a D or trade? Love the podcast. Thank you. Thank you. This is coming in from Snows. If the top 4 are forwards,
they'll do one of two things.
Yeah. They'll draft a forward or a D.
They'll draft Levshunov.
Yeah.
If I'm saying that right, I always get nervous.
Yes. You're pronouncing it correctly. Yes.
Or someone will be so excited that player is still around, and maybe they're in a place in the order that the Canadians could still move down to and get a forward that they really want to get, plus the extra assets they pick up for trading down.
Could very well be.
I'll tell you, man. I'll tell you one thing. It's almost a scenario that we shouldn't even be looking at because
they got a lot of assets right now. Yeah.
Because you're not going to see 4 first picks be forwards.
I don't think so either, but you never know. Next, Pixel says, how many years away are the Habs from being on the same level as Dallas, New York Rangers, Florida, and Edmonton, who also happen to be probably the 4 best teams in the league? I would say not next year, where it'll come down to, I think, the final week of the season for a playoff spot. Not the year after that, where I think they'll make the playoffs. The year after that, they'll make the playoffs, and they'll probably win a round or 2. I would say 4 years with the potential to be accelerated to 3.
Yeah, that's if all things go the way they're planning and the way they want them to, that's when the window opens up and they start building themselves into that type of team. They start becoming that type of team based on the experiences they've had and the pieces that get added. So if it's in 3 years from now, fantastic. And if it's 4, that'll be pretty realistic.
Okay. Let's go. Sylvain Baudin, what kind of contract does Arbor Jack guy get? Any chance he gets an RFA offer?
No, I don't think he'll get an offer sheet. There would be no offer sheet that would come in that would scare the Canadians into not signing him. And I don't even think it gets to that point. It'll be a standard contract coming out of entry level, a bridge deal. We'll see what it ends up being, but
he'll be under 1.6.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to put a number on it. Like, that's the type of question where I need to do like exhaustive analysis to really come up with what the comparables are and what it could be. But it would surprise me if the deal was worth anything more than 2 to 4 years. Like, I think it's probably closer to 2 to 3 years, but I'm leaving the window open that they might get something medium term done.
Yeah, no, I can see that happening. All right, okay, next. Do you see the Canadiens going after Jake DeBrusk? I do not. Do you?
No, but whoever does is going to get a really good player. Like, I don't know why Boston hasn't locked this player in. I don't know what the problem has been that his name.
They don't like his consistency. They don't like his consistency.
Yeah, well, you know what? Like, he shows up in the playoffs and plays hard, and like he's played well for them. Like, I have to go look at it now that we're talking about it, but like, I don't know. I think this guy is a good player, man.
I think Boston thinks Jake DeBrusk, you have to push him to get him going. Kind of like what the Canadiens are going through with Anderson type of thing. And
he's a last year, 27 goals, 23 assists. This year, 19 goals, 21 assists. Still a little bit down. But in 13 playoff games, 5 goals, 6 assists, 11 points. Who was scoring for Boston?
No, his stats are very good. Like, I don't have a problem with his stats. His stats are very good.
I don't know. I don't know why they would get rid of him. But someone's going to get a good player.
Milton Simitsakos. How do you guys feel about the Grant's Beckett-Seneca prediction that the Habs – listen, Grant has watched the prospects a lot more than I have. I could tell you that right now. Based on what I know and based on the amount of people that I talk to, Seneca is not top 8 or top 9 on most people's projections. But at the same time, he has been a guy who's been rising very, very quickly and over the last month or so. So, look, he plays a position, wing, that the Canadiens could use, right? He's got size. The Canadiens could use that, and he's got a pretty big ceiling. So I think it's quite possible. You're starting to hear his name more and more. Next one's for you, Eric. Hong Tran, would you guys rather have Michkov, Perek, Yakimchuk, or Reinbacher, Aginla, Lindstrom? I think Hughes made the right decision to pick Reinbacher last year.
Okay, so there's no question?
I don't think so. Do you agree that the right pick was to pick Reinbacher? We don't know, right? Well, talk to me in 10 years type of thing, right? Next. I'll give you the next one because that
I'll tell you something else. I'll tell you something else. Like,
yeah.
I know all the rumors are out there. Michkov's coming. Michkov might not come. Michkov, if he comes, he's got to play on the first line. Until it gets done.
That's a little bit weird, by the way. If he comes, he's got to play on a first line. I mean,
that's never. That's that. Whatever that is, I don't know who said that and why it got said, or if it's being twisted around, or if it was even said. But I know one thing: Keith Jones, Danny Briere, John Tortorella aren't having that type of shit dictated to them. I can tell you that right now. Yeah.
Next. Who's a surprise prospect that makes the jump? I think Beck takes the Dvorak's role. I don't think so. I think Beck will start in Laval.
I'll give you a surprise guy, and you're not going to like it because you start harping on size and stuff like that. But I'd watch out for Sean Farrell at camp next year. I heard a lot of good things about the way he competed this year, and not just in terms of producing, but in terms of the way he played. And by the way, you make a surprise and make the roster out of camp, it doesn't guarantee your spot come playoff time or throughout the entire season. But I think he's a guy that we might be talking about in a different way than we were when we last saw him in Montreal. That's what I'm going to say.
Look, I don't know if
Kapanen's another guy that I would look at right now.
Yeah, but Farrell's the type of guy, though, that I get the feeling that if he's not going to play in the National Hockey League on the second line, that he doesn't quite fit in as a third liner or a fourth liner. But I could be wrong.
Well, that's the thing I was trying to say, is that some of the details that have entered into his game would lend to him, if he has to grind his way through on a lower line before he gets an opportunity to play higher, he might have that ability to do that. I don't think it's a guarantee by any means, but I heard some really good things about the way he developed this season. And so it's a name I would keep an eye on. But I think Oliver Kapanen is one that right now you start to look at and say, okay, like who's a guy who could come into this roster and find a place on it, and he's one.
Okay, let's take anywhere between 3 and 5 more very quickly, and that'll be it for tonight on this Tuesday night. LK says, question, where do you think the Habs finish the end of the 2024-2025 next season?
Ask us in October. Like we don't know. Like let's wait to see what gets added.
I'll give a prediction right now, and my prediction right now is not in the playoffs, but like Eric said, ask me when the puck drops at the beginning of the regular season, and I'll probably give you a different prediction. Next, who will win the cup first, the Habs or the Leafs? This coming in from Manny Diaz.
Oh my gosh, you gonna answer first?
Well, you know what? I always thought Toronto was going to win a Stanley Cup with the way they were doing their rebuild. I have to be totally honest with you. I did. I still think Toronto obviously is closer than the Canadians are, but Toronto's got a window here, and that window's starting to close. And you know what? Tavares, UFA at the end of 2025, Marner the same. I think if Toronto doesn't win it in the next 2 years, the answer is going to be Montreal.
I think it's going to be Montreal. I think the Scars run way too deep in Toronto. They're going to change their core a little bit here, but just the guys and what they've been through, the ones who stay, I don't know if they ever find a way to get it done based on what they've already lived in that market. I don't know how much you could possibly change there that would totally get rid of that bad juju. So I think it'll be Montreal before.
Another one. Do you guys believe in Skinner giving he's the worst goalie, given that he's the worst goalie by far out of the 4 left? Do I believe in Skinner? I believe that if they protect him, he's got a chance to win. And I believe that if they don't protect him, chances are he's going to lose the game and they're going to lose the series.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to protect him from that Dallas forecheck and the breakdowns that are going to occur when those guys get going. And look, if Dallas executes its game plan, they're going to be really. I don't see Skinner outdueling Ottinger, and I got to tell you something. He's going to have to be the very best he ever has been for them to get through based on what they're about to face.
2 more. I'll take the next one, and then Eric will take the final one of the night. Dawson Hallahan, who do the Habs need in a forward if they acquire one this offseason? Who may they target that fits the Habs system? I think we already tackled this, by the way. We talked about the name of Holtz.
2 other ones.
We talked about the name of Zegras, and we talked about the name of Marco Rossi, and we talked about the name of Martin Ishkash. Next. Mike Dufour, is Stamkos done in Tampa after the trade today? The trade today, of course, being Ryan McDonough asked the Nashville Predators to trade him. He returns to Tampa Bay, as well as a 4th-round pick, and in return, Nashville gets a 2nd-round pick and a 7th-round pick.
Eric? I don't think Stamkos is going anywhere. I think he'll be in Tampa Bay next year. But I will say that if all of a sudden he gets to market, I'd have no idea if he'd ever have interest in signing with the Montreal Canadiens. But if I were them, I'd go hard after him.
If I was Stamkos and I played for Tampa, I'd want to re-sign for Tampa. But if I was Marchessault and I played in Vegas, I'd want to re-sign for Vegas. Yeah. Eric, the last one goes to you.
I think they'll both end up back in their respective markets. But
that would make sense. I wouldn't move from there either. Then again, I do love living in Canada. Eric, last one. John says, should Montreal have $1 hot dog nights? I didn't expect that to be the last question, but it is.
The hot dogs, if they pay 30 cents for them, that's really what they're worth. They're the most overrated product in the history of sports. They used to be great. They are not great anymore. And I'm sorry to say it. I know I'm breaking hearts somewhere out there. But like those hot dogs, which we get for free in the press box, I try not to eat them because they're just not good.
Yeah,
which they were. They're not.
No, they're not for me. And should a hot dog company want to pay me a 6-figure salary to be a brand ambassador, I will tell you that I absolutely love them, and I have 5 per day. In the meantime, I'll tell you that pizza or submarines any day of the week and twice on Sunday over hot dogs, and let's even throw in a poutine. All right. On that note, Eric Engels, thank you so much for doing this. Enjoy the playoffs. And once again, you got Dallas. Who do you have? Rangers or Florida? You said Dallas and Florida in the Stanley Cup final, correct?
Dallas and Florida. It's going to be tight, though. It's going to be tough. I got Dallas in 6. I'll take Florida in 7.
Fantastic stuff. We'll talk to you soon, Eric. Thanks for doing this, man.
All right. Take care,
He's
man.
Eric Engels of Sportsnet and Sportsnet.ca. Special thanks, of course, to Energy Transportation Group, as well as Bittt Tibi, as well as Playground and SportBuffShop.com. Special thanks to all of you watching, you, my Sick Army, you, my Sick community. If you like it, share it with your friends. Comment Sick, S-I-C-K. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple. It's our way of feeling the love for Yellow and Sammy at Master Control. They're Cavallaro. I'm Marinaro. We'll be back tomorrow night. Ciao for now.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. Bittt, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.